Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thunderstruck, our look back at the greatest matches of one Jushin Thunder Liger as we count down to his impending retirement on January 5th, 2020. Also, January 6th is at Oda City Gymnasium. I think that's right. His New Year's Dash is going to be his actual retirement ceremony, but his last match will be on January 5th at the Tokyo Dome. We'll talk a bit about that with our guest today. My name's WH Park. Of course, I host the monthly post-Perez show with John Pollock, but today, joining me is one of our unique standalone guests and a familiar voice, I'm sure, to many people who have followed me throughout my podcasting career. It's JoJo Remy. JoJo, how are you?
WH, how's it going?
Good.
This is, I think this is, the match we're going to talk about today is a little appropriate given, the circumstances of the retirement match you mentioned, and my making my return. It's like kind of like an old partner / old rival type thing going on. Not that we're rivals in any way, but two people that haven't been in the wrestling ring with each other for a while, and two people that haven't been on a podcast with each other for a while. So,
well, not since the the episodes of Cruel Summer that you did earlier this year, but it's been a while, that's for sure. So let's talk about Jushin Thunder Liger, and you, of course, are a big wrestling fan, a big follower of professional wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. What does Jushin Thunder Liger mean to you as a fan, JoJo?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Liger, he's a constant, right, in my wrestling fandom. I've been following Japanese wrestling for about 20 years. Not, continuously, but, from when I started to today, we're at 20 years, and he's been there the whole time, obviously. And he just represents to me, like I said, a cornerstone, a constant in the world of Japanese wrestling, whether it's his matches, which we're going to talk about, one of my most favorite, his theme music, his costume, which isn't particularly Japanese, but he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and he's an icon, and I think he could keep going, physically. He's still capable of having good matches. So, it's somewhat bittersweet, but you know what? It's not very common in wrestling that, someone packs it up when, before they should. So, I'm obviously very happy for Liger to be able to walk away on his own terms. And, I'm somewhat, a little bit sad about it now that I think about it, but, it's an amazing career.
You mentioned like he's kind of, in great physical shape, seemingly. Like I'm kind of wondering about what the severity of his, like, any injuries he might have, just because, like, we'll talk about it when we talk about his last match, what you think about it. But, like, it's incredible though. Like, if you look at people who came after him, the generation that followed him, the fabled kind of third generation of like Nakanishi, Nagata, Kojima, and Tenzan, like he seemingly looks like he's in better condition than all four of those guys. It's, especially someone like Nakanishi and Tenzan, and he's had a career just as arduous and as strenuous as any of those guys,
if not more so. Yeah, and been through non-directly related to wrestling type issues, along the way. So yeah, his physical condition is very impressive, and I would certainly say that he's in the best shape out of those guys that you mentioned. And for his age, and just in general, always been in great shape. So
let's talk about. As of this recording, they've announced his last match, and that is a tag match where he will team with Naoki Sano, one of his generational rivals. His first real big rival in New Japan Pro Wrestling after he became Liger. And then they're going to take on the kind of this new generation of rivals, Ryu Lee, the former Dragon Lee, teaming with Hiromu Takahashi. And what are your thoughts about this being Liger's last match ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think as my cat walks across my keyboard here, I'm I'm a little disappointed in that I would have liked to see him in a singles match, but I think this is an interesting matchup. I don't really think of Sano as a partner. Obviously, like you mentioned, they were really rivals, but that's still kind of the same story with Dragon Lee and Hiromu too. So I think it's a fitting matchup. So that's happening on January 5th, right? And on the 4th, we have the six-man.
The six-man, yes. He's facing really a lot of his generational rivals and teaming a lot of the people that he's really deeply associated with.
Yeah, so, if it were up to me, not fantasy booking, but I would have switched those two matches, right? I think the one he's doing on the 4th is a bigger deal. And just in terms of, well, obviously, we'll get into it in a bit, but of the people that are involved in that match, and it probably could have been a 6-man, not an 8-man. But to me, that's almost the real retirement match. And the one on the 5th is kind of like the passing the torch to Hiromu is kind of how I think of it. I think it's fine. I think it's actually a good thing that on the 4th, he's kind of like opening the show. I think that, will definitely, energize the crowd, and, that theme music hitting for one of the last times is going to be amazing. I guess I have mixed feelings on the matchups. It would have been cool to have one more singles match. But do you really want to watch Sano and Liger in the Tokyo Dome in a singles match? I don't know. Maybe. I don't have very strong feelings one or the other, I guess.
I would have preferred a singles match, and not with Sano, but, like someone like Will Ospreay or Hiromu in a singles match. I think to do that passing of the torch, like a proper one, where maybe like whoever the winner of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match the night before, maybe they could have done some angle where they could challenge Liger. Hey, I wanna establish myself as a strong champion by beating the greatest champion in the history of this company as far as the junior heavyweights go, and cement kind of their legacy as the next ace of that division. But again, we're getting to fantasy booking here, but I kind of feel like with all these tag matches that he's been doing on this kind of, quote unquote retirement tour, like his last match in the United States was in a tag match, and he was on, he was teaming with a guy named Aaron Solo, and he was on the losing end of that match. He didn't get pinned, but still, I just think it's a weird thing to do, like all these kind of tag matches that seemingly don't have a lot of connection to his history, to the sense where, like when they announced it, I didn't feel like, wow, that makes perfect sense. Like some people did. I didn't, but that's just me, I suppose. But I would think that there's something to maybe his actual physical condition. Maybe he can't do it, or he doesn't want to do anything too strenuous. And like the last match he had in a singles as part of this tour was like the match against Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah, I mean, I think, let's say word on the street is that this match was actually supposed to be a different partner for Hiromu, and, Dragon Lee's situation kind of, he kind of fell into their lap. And I don't think he was originally intended to be Hiromu's partner. Actually, I heard that his original part was supposed to be Bushi. And from that perspective, I'm happy that it's Dragon Lee. But yeah, it is a little bit weird to have him go out in all these tag matches and not really be the focus of this kind of retirement tour. I would have liked to see it, him be more the focus and, have more callbacks to his lengthy career. But it's not really about that, right? It's about, getting as many people as they can on this Tokyo Dome card, and keeping it interesting for the current generation of fans who maybe, don't know who anybody in the 8-man are, of the non-current roster guys. So, I guess it's kind of hard to please everybody, but I think all in all, it's a fitting array of talent that he's going up against in the, last couple matches that he's going to have.
Definitely. Like I will say that once I get to the Tokyo Dome, get in my seat, and these matches start, that I'll probably thoroughly enjoy them. I think I'm going to probably enjoy the January 4th match a bit more, because as you're alluding to, like the people in that match, especially on the other side, have so much connection with Jushin Liger, as we'll talk about today, because one of the people in that match is in this match that we're going to talk about. What match are we going to review today here, JoJo?
So we're going to be talking about a match from February 1998 between Jushin Thunder Liger and, in my opinion, his greatest rival, Shinjiro Otani.
Yep, I'm of the same sentiment about Otani being his greatest rival. For those of you who've been following this series, this will be the third Liger versus Otani match that we have reviewed. Previously, we talked about the February 9th, 1997 match with Daniel Makabe, and then also Martin Bushman joined me on a previous episode to talk about the March 17th, 1996 match, and both those matches were awesome. This match is awesome. Spoiler here, like we're gonna gush profusely about this match, JoJo and I. And I gotta say, like, you know, having watched tons of matches with Liger against a bunch of different people, you know, Otani is the only person who was picked 3 different times by 3 different people. The only one who comes close is probably like Koji Kanemoto as himself and as Tiger Mask 3. So I don't know if that really counts, but there you go. Like, you know, like who's synonymous with Liger from the 90s? It's like Otani, Benoit, Kanemoto, and El Samurai are kind of like the big 4, aren't they? Yeah,
I would say, you know, if I had to pick a guy from the 90s, obviously it'd be Otani, and if I had to pick a guy from the 80s, it would be Sano. But yeah, I thought about Kanemoto. I thought about picking one of the Black Tiger tag matches. Sasuke, he comes to mind. Obviously Benoit. But yeah, to me, and we'll talk about it, but you know, the intensity of the rivalry here is most compelling. Yeah, I think you can see it's evident in not only their singles matches against one another, which there are quite a few, but in a lot of their multi-man tag matches and their straight-ahead tag matches. Of course, Shinjiro Otani would team with people like Koji Kanemoto against Liger and various people like El Samurai or Chris Benoit or Black Tiger, Eddie Guerrero, but also with the guy most synonymous with him as a tag team, that would be Tatsuhiro Takaiwa, one of my favorite tag teams of all time. I think the greatest team to ever hold the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, and they were the first tag team to do so. And then Kanemoto would, you know, feud with them, with Minoru Tanaka as the junior stars, but getting a little ahead of ourselves. But, you know, one thing that's really interesting about their rivalry is that, you know, Otani always had as his backup, as his partners in a unit kind of, was Kanemoto and Takaiwa, and usually against Liger and against El Samurai, and maybe, you know, like later on people like Kendo Kashin, but also, you know, Norio Honaga and Wild Pegasus and people like that. So it encompasses a long time, JoJo, this rivalry, both in like tons of tags and tons of singles matches. Yeah, almost 10 years, right? Yeah. Maybe like 92 through around this match, really. A pretty long run of them centering the junior division on, you know, Liger and his masked or foreign partners against the 3 pissed off guys wearing black trunks. And you know, they got a lot of awesome matches out of it. You know, the one we're going to talk about it, none the least. Yeah. One thing I always think about when I think about, like, you know, Otani and Liger is like, you know, there seems to be like some kind of theme going through this rivalry with these units of like you said, like Otani, Kanemoto, and Takaiwa just wear black trunks, black boots, black knee pads, and very basic look. Like they look like they're still young lions in the New Japan system, and they're going against like always usually like the more colorful wrestlers in New Japan Junior Division, like Liger and Samurai, and usually they're always fighting against the masked dudes. And I think there is something to be, you know, like read into that kind of a situation, into that rivalry between these guys who, we're wrestlers, you're fucking cartoon characters, we don't like you, so we're gonna beat the piss out of you every chance we can get. Yeah, definitely. Right. You know, and I think just one thing I want to add to that is that, you know, the current scene in New Japan particularly really doesn't have that dynamic, and it's something watching this match, made me kind of miss.
Oh yeah, I totally miss the 1990s era and the early 2000s era of New Japan Juniors. I don't think we have as much of a clear focus on that division as we did back in the past, back in like 1998. But let's get to this match. It's Liger versus Otani, February 7th, 1998. The Fighting Spirit 1998 tour. This is day 10 of that tour. It's from the Nakajima Sports Center in Sapporo, Hokkaido, the northern part of Japan. And it's for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. And, kind of a role reversal here, JoJo. It's Otani who is the defending champ and not Liger.
That's right. So Otani beat El Samurai at the Nagoya Dome on August 10th, 1997 for the J Crown. And the IWGP Junior title was part of the J Crown at the time. And then later that year in November, they disbanded the J Crown, and Otani kept the IWGP title, so that it was in that reign that they had this match, and this was his 6th defense of the title. His record with Liger going into this match was 2-10, and he's coming off a win against Liger, but he's 0-2 in title matches against Liger, including the one that you mentioned, the previous year in the same building in February 1997 that you already talked about.
Yeah, that was with the show with Daniel Makabe. Please check out the show with Daniel, the show with Martin. We gush profusely about both Liger and of course Shinjiro Otani. I think that's going to be a theme in this episode. JoJo said this is a Liger show. Obviously, we're gonna try to focus a lot of our analysis on Liger, but my God, we are going to be praising the shit out of Shinjiro Otani. I think in the next next 45 to 60 minutes.
Definitely. One more note on Liger real quick. So he's coming off a January 4th match against Riki Choshu for Choshu's retirement match, in which he had lost in 5 minutes to Choshu. And he's built up some momentum, on this tour, mostly in tag matches against the guys we were talking about. But, we're going to talk about the structure of the match and how they kind of framed these two guys. But, Liger was riding some momentum, but not as much momentum as the way they wrestled this match would lead you to believe.
No, definitely. We'll talk about that. So we start the match, and we see, that Koji Kanemoto and Tetsuya Takaiwa are in Otani's corner, obviously. In Liger's corner, we have El Samurai and Kendo Kashin, who is now like a coach over in the WWE Performance Center in Full Sail University in Florida. They're his corner. So this is kind of like the battle lines are like, Liger, Kashin, Samurai against the team of Kanemoto, Otani, and Takaiwa. And like some people would be, inserted here and there on either side. But that's kind of the core here in 1998.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they structured this whole tour, basically these 6 guys going up against each other. And, as you mentioned, over the previous several years, it would be this general framework with a couple moving parts.
Yeah, so they lock up to start the match, and Liger pushes Otani into the ropes. Liger breaks the hold and backs up, but Otani doesn't stop. He doesn't pause, nothing. He just charges right back into the lockup with Liger, and they're just like, it's super intense in the first 10 seconds of this match, JoJo.
Yeah, the mat work that they went into after the first lockup was really intense. Right from the opening bell, it was super intense, and you get the sense that Otani doesn't want to give Liger too much space. He wants to keep him close. He wants to kind of try to wear him down. Right away you can see that basically Liger is presented as the stronger of the two, even though Otani has the title.
Yeah, so that's a good point that you make. Like Otani kind of wants to just keep Liger close to him. He doesn't want to give him any space because a lot of his offense requires Liger to use some speed and some momentum. So there's another lockup and they break up the lockup here, and then Liger backs up and Otani charges back at him again, but this time Liger's ready. He hits him with this beautiful shote right off the bat and just kind of sends him flying head over ass. They go for a count. Otani kicks out and does this amazing sell job where the camera didn't catch it, but I'm pretty sure he rolled over to the referee to make sure he didn't actually get pinned. He did the 2 count gesture to the ref. 2 count, right? Only 2? I didn't get pinned. He didn't beat me in the first 3 minutes for my title, did he?
Yeah, this is going to be the first time that we, focus on Otani here. But this kick out from this first palm strike, I mean, this is how you do a close 2 count. Textbook, super, super deep, I guess you would say. It seemed like Liger would have, obviously you don't think he's going to win at this point, but whatever makes a good kick out, this was definitely it. And then, like you said, he grabs his jaw afterwards. He has a clear look of frustration on his face. And you can tell that he's thinking, I can't let this happen again. I got to do something to counter, this attack. Because if he hits me with another one of these palms in the face, it's probably going to be the end of me.
And something that is a recurring theme in these Otani matches that we've talked about here on Thunderstruck is that how good Shinjiro Otani is at selling, and not necessarily the impact of moves against him, but kind of the psychology of wanting to beat Liger and not be beat by him. So this whole thing where he you'll see this a lot of his matches where he'll try to get a pin on someone after hitting a big move and they kick out, and he's just he looks like he's in despair. When he kicks out of a big move and he's not sure. We know he hasn't lost a match, but he doesn't know, and he sells this. I didn't lose the match, did I? This kind of desperation that really draws you in so many of his matches.
Yeah. I wanted to wait until we got a little bit more into the match to talk about this, but I'll just bring it up now. Is that I think that what makes Otani such a special wrestler is, even in retrospect now, especially in retrospect now, is that there's just always emotion in everything that he does, whether it's tenacity, to grab an arm and make sure that Liger doesn't get too much space, or disbelief at a kick out, or, elation when he feels like he's getting close to scoring the win. Just everything he does is super, super full of emotion. And I feel like that's just something that's really lacking today. And one of his strengths, there's other stuff he does great too, but that's just one thing that when I think of Otani, I think of emotion. And, I think he may be the best ever at portraying emotion in wrestling matches.
I wouldn't argue with you on that point. Otani rolls out of a Saito suplex attempt and then and takes Liger down with a shoulder block tackle, but Liger is able to hit the suplex from an Otani side headlock later on. Otani is able to briefly take control with an armbar and a chin lock, but Liger reverses and transitions into an interesting kind of Indian deathlock variation of his Romero special move, stretching out Otani's arms. This is really interesting mat work happening here. Liger doing some stuff I've never seen him do before.
Yeah, more aggressive than your typical Liger mat work, I think, which was, the tone of this match. But yeah, you don't really think of Liger having, strong mat-based matches, really. Especially, in the earlier stages of his career, I guess. But that's kind of what sets this match apart in the early stages. I feel like the mat work that they set up early on, really laid the groundwork for most of the psychology of the match afterwards.
Liger then goes for the proper Indian deathlock, but Otani escapes by grabbing a Kimura armbar from the bottom on Liger and starts wrenching on his arm. He just wants to take possession of it for himself, wants to take it home, maybe just put up on his wall on a mantelpiece or something like that. And I made a note that this is a great example of what I think this kind of, there's this murky definition of what strong style is. If people ask you, what's the definition of strong style? What makes that different from other companies and the style they have? And I think this is it for me. Like, this is very different from King's Road style that you see in 90s All Japan. Is like, there's a lot of wearing down of a body part. There's a lot more psychology in the sense of like, King's Road is more a lot of high impact moves to wear down your opponents. Whereas this is, kind of more the grinding away at a body part, especially in matches with like, Otani. But to me, this is like a perfect example. If someone's going to say, what is strong style professional wrestling? I'd say this match is a perfect example of strong style. Not that nonsense that they promote in the UK. Now, that's not strong style in any way, shape, or form. And it's very, very different from what you see in All Japan of the same era.
Yeah, I mean, to me, strong style is basically three things. You mentioned the submissions. That's definitely part of it. The second part is usually some sort of striking, martial arts inspired or not. And this match has that too with the palm strikes and the soul butts that we talk about in a little bit. And then lastly is a higher level of emotion, which was something that Inoki was known for, right? And obviously, if there's anybody that received that emotion through a slap to the face, it was definitely Otani. So those are the three things that make strong style to me, and this match has all three, yeah.
Yeah. Liger escapes, but is soon put into a series of arm bars by Otani. So this is his strategy. He wants that arm from Liger, and just some beautiful transitions from Otani into these various variations of different arm bars and arm locks that he's just trying to wear down that arm of Liger.
Yeah, and then, it goes back to getting hit in the face with the palm strike in the beginning, right? Liger does the shoda with his left hand, and that's the arm that Otani has targeted since taking it to the mouth right in the beginning of the match. So, to me, this is the story of the match, and he weaves it in throughout. We'll talk about it more later, but he goes beyond the submissions towards the end of the match. But yeah, this is it. That the palm strike in the beginning set this up, and then the rest of Otani's offense, for the most part, is based upon trying to prevent that from happening again.
Definitely. Otani takes Liger's back, and from this position, he rubs his forearm into Liger's face. And I made a note that it looks a lot better and looks a lot more effective than that chainsaw fucking nonsense that Kenny Omega does, JoJo.
Yeah, there was aggression, and it was a little weird because Liger has a mask with like eye cover on. But he was doing it hard enough to where I was thinking that it probably hurt. So mission accomplished there.
Liger escapes this and goes after Otani's legs, but Otani fires away at Liger's damaged arm. So like what you're talking about, he's any way he can, he's going after that arm. So from this bottom position, he just starts kicking away at the arm and applies yet another arm bar. Some great back and forth advantages between these two guys in this match. At this kind of like, I would say early, or nor would I say it's the middle part, is getting to the middle part of this match, but just some, there's no rest period at all in this match, JoJo.
Yeah, it's very intense. The crowd kind of starts off. The crowd kind of mirrors the flow of the match, right? There's definitely some tension even from the beginning, but they start to warm up. But this is still not, they're not, stomping in the bleachers quite yet. But, they're mostly building up on the mat here still. Yeah.
Definitely. From here, Otani wraps Liger's arm illegally in the ropes and shoves the ref away. And who is the ref in this match? I asked you this earlier.
Yeah, it's the same guy, actually, that we spoke about in the G1 final between Akiyama and Tenzan. It's Masao Tayama, who's not currently working in Japan, I don't think.
So he shoves Tayama away when he tries to break up the armbar that's tied up in the ropes. He does the 5 count. He just tries to, but Otani's just pissed for some reason, he's just pissed at Liger. He's not wanting to let go. And this is a recurring theme, as we'll talk about as we go through the match some more, is that Otani's just, kind of going to the edge of the rules. He's like on the edge of getting a DQ. Not that it's very easy to get DQ'd in New Japan, even at this time in 1998, but like he's just like kind of pushing the fans against him by just taking whatever advantage he can against Liger.
Yeah, he does everything short of actually, trying to take his mask off, I'd say, which would kind of be, I think, a little bit too much. But yeah, he definitely walks that line of being beyond cocky, right? He's definitely working heel, but it's not too much. I think it's the perfect level of aggression, and Liger definitely gives it back to him a little bit. When they get into the corner, he gives him the boot scrapes, or he tries to before, and that's a great exchange too.
Yeah. Before that though, Otani stalks Liger, who's lying in the match, and just stomps away at the arm as much as he can. It's just like constantly just stomping away. These look vicious. Like Otani's great at doing these things. I'm sure he's not actually like hitting him as hard as he can, but you don't know. You never know because it's Japan in the 90s, but like just vicious. There's like this level of like ruthlessness, of viciousness in his assault on Liger's arm. Fortunately for Liger, he's able to hit a release German suplex on Otani and regains the advantage in the match. He follows up with a brutal powerbomb. One of those, like, Eddie Guerrero on Chris Benoit or Dean Malenko type of powerbombs. And then applies the Romero special, which gets a nice pop from the crowd, JoJo.
Yeah, I think, before the submission, he's just dumping Otani like a little kid, basically. I mean, he's just throwing him around. And it's pretty crazy because Liger is a lot shorter than Otani. Obviously, he's much stockier and more muscular. But the impact with which Otani takes these bumps and, the velocity with which Liger throws him is almost not typical for New Japan Junior matches at this time. So it really stood out to me as being pretty brutal.
I think like Liger was the first junior heavyweight I ever saw do like a vicious powerbomb, like like something akin to something you would see from like Big Van Vader, WCW and New Japan. Like so, like he's always had this power game that people don't really talk about that much.
Yeah, I guess I kind of think of like how Eddie Guerrero used to do it, and he kind of set the tone, I guess, for the powerbomb in that division. I mean, other than like the regular Liger bomb, I think. Because this was not a typical Liger bomb, right? This was more just like a snap power bomb.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like also like what Benoit would do to Eddie on different episodes of Nitro as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe he got it from Benoit. I think that's probably something maybe he lifted because they were good friends, they were partners and rivals as well. But moving back into the match, Liger moves into a camel clutch, which Otani escapes by biting Liger's thumb, much to the displeasure of the fans. So he's really doing an excellent job of getting these fans to boo him.
Yeah, they didn't realize what was happening at first, and you could see it because the camera was right in Liger's face. But then when they were standing up, yeah, the crowd totally realized what was happening and really gave it to Otani. It was a good moment.
Otani continues the assault on the arm. Liger blocks another armbar and gets a sleeper on Otani, but it looks more like a choke. It's this subtle like positioning of his arms under the chin that just looks like, and kind of like he kind of wrenches on it. You can tell, like even with a full bodysuit and a full face mask, you can tell Liger's pissed off with Otani, and he's just not having any more of this guy's nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, this is the tone that they set from the beginning, and it was really, they kept it up the whole match.
Otani is able to reach the ropes. Liger gets out of another armbar predicament by straight stomping Otani's face. I was like, Jesus, I thought he's going to rearrange the man's nose from this stomp, JoJo.
Yeah, I mean, that's payback for what happened a few minutes earlier, right? There's a lot of payback, I guess you could say. A lot of receipts happening in this match, and the intensity obviously is not coming down anytime soon.
And we get to a sequence which you referenced before. There's chops to Otani in the corner, and then a capo kick. Liger then follows up with the face wash spot that is one of Otani's trademark moves. This really pops the crowd because they're more used to seeing Otani do it, not be on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, they totally knew what was happening. First of all, the reaction to the capo kick was awesome too. But yeah, I think this is kind of the awareness of Liger knowing when to do this, and playing off of the tone that Otani set as kind of the heel in the match. He really just set up Otani to get more heat.
Yeah, from here, while Liger's doing these face watches, Otani's able to grab Liger's leg. He gets up, he powers out of this predicament that he's in. He pushes Liger down on the mat, and then he wags his finger at Liger, telling him, "Oh no, you don't, motherfucker. You don't use my own move against me."
That was one of his taunts in Virtual Pro Wrestling too.
That is true. Otani then does the face wash sequence himself, including the running version where he hits the ropes on the other side of the ring, and runs back and just boots the guy in the face, Liger in this case. Something I'm always Otani's the one who invented it, and then Kanemoto steals it, and then Samoa Joe kind of brings it to America, right?
Otani definitely invented it.
He invented it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something that Kanemoto would use a lot, especially after Otani leaves to go to 0-1 and Kanemoto's still in New Japan, and then Samoa Joe adopts it. To great effect himself. I thought he was really one of the better people to do it of all the copycats out there, but no one matches Shinjiro Otani in doing the face wash and the running face wash, running from the other side of the ring. There's a close 2 count on Otani with a Liger La Magistral Cradle, a move that Liger kind of adopted, I think, from Ultimo Dragon, and would use to great effect on a lot of his big matches, JoJo.
Yeah. So Otani wrestled Ultimo at the same Tokyo show that Liger wrestled Choshu at, and there's a relationship there. Ultimo being one of those people that at some point was teaming with Liger in New Japan. So maybe he's playing off, his relationship with Ultimo. I don't know. But it was definitely a nice one.
From here, Liger hits a brainbuster. Otani rolls out. Liger follows up with a beautiful plancha. So one of the few, kind of dive moves, high flying moves from Liger at this point, which is, interesting to note that at some point, specifically after his brain tumor operation, Liger really transitions more into being a technical wrestler, a ground wrestler, and a power wrestler, and really tones down a lot of the high flying moves.
Yeah, here he did a dive feint where he, the handspring thing, that Kushida does and Tajiri does. And then he just did a normal plancha, but it was, perfectly placed in terms of time, and it sets up another pretty nasty brainbuster on the floor.
Oh, yeah. So Liger then hits Otani with this brainbuster on the blue mats, but to the point where it's pretty close to the concrete, JoJo. I know, you protect your opponent on a brainbuster, but my God, one slip and you're fucked in this match if your head hits directly on either the blue mat. I don't care that those mats are really fucking thin, so you really gotta be careful. But this is Liger. Obviously, there's a lot of trust placed in how good he is at executing moves and how well he makes them look, but also how well he takes care of his opponents.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because there's one later on in the match where I'm not sure what happened, but it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, this one I think was fine. But yeah, we'll talk about one later on in the match where let's just say it's good that no one got hurt on it.
Yes. Otani recovers and gets on the apron. Liger meets him with a series of strikes. He runs to the ropes and is met with a beautiful springboard dropkick from Otani straight to Liger's mush. So he springboards on the top rope and he executes a beautiful dropkick and he catches Liger right in the mouth. this is one of my favorite moves of Otani because he's so graceful when he does this move, JoJo.
He's the best. He is the best, what they call in Japanese commentary, swan dive offense guy that there is, right? Springboard attacks. I was trying to think, like, is there anybody today that even comes close to Otani's proficiency with swan dive attacks?
No, because a lot of people do, like, like AJ Styles and Ospreay, they all do, like, these forearm smashes. Very few people do drop kicks or, like, one of Otani's other moves, the spinning heel kick off the springboard. You don't really see it that often, but, you think about it, it takes a lot of, like, balance to do a drop kick, Like, you're jumping and then you're using your feet in offensive manner, like, off the springboard, off these slippery, ropes.
Yeah, the spinning heel kick too, to get that like twist in the air. He does that later on, and I think he does 3 total springboard moves in this match, and they're kind of like building, and they're part of the story, right? This one was kind of more just to turn the tide on, quickly turn the tide and be a transition to get Otani back on offense. But the other 2 were integral in the story of the match too. So yeah. By my estimation, he is the best of all time at these type of moves. One guy that came to mind that I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think TJ Perkins does a pretty good job. He might be one of the best that's going today at these types of moves, but Otani's definitely the best of all time.
Best of all time. Like, TJP is pretty good. A lot of the like springboard stuff, it's true. I haven't actually seen a lot of his recent stuff since he's come back to Japan, so I'm gonna have to deep dive into like some of his more recent stuff, which is getting a lot of praise. But from here, from the drop kick, Otani follows up with a Liger bomb for a big 2 count on Liger. So he's like now using Liger's moves against him. There's a great reaction from Otani over the 2 count. He, like I said, this is what we talked about before. He's like, no, I thought I beat him. You counted slow. That's just all in this despairing look on his face, JoJo. Like, just like he thought he had him, and he thought he had him with his own move.
He's all emotion. Like, that's what makes everything he does so good, is that whether it's, disbelief, like I said, or, being completely distraught over getting a 2 count. It's just everything he does is drips with emotion. And, he does this other thing where he doesn't really do it too much in this match, but he'll like kind of stumble over himself because he's so excited about something, which is also great. But yeah.
From here, Liger reverses the Irish whip, and Otani gets hit with another shote. There's a top rope Frankensteiner for big 2 count there. Otani hits the beautiful spinning heel kick to Liger's face. So he really fucking hates Liger's face in this match, JoJo.
It's a good thing he's got a mask on, because there's a couple times where he gets him. You would have had the print of his boot in the bottom of his face.
That's exactly true. A good thing they're like flat soled, right? So Otani hits a series of over the shoulder arm breakers. So he's going back to attacking that arm. Really good strategy from him. He goes for another arm bar, but Liger gets to the ropes, but Otani won't break. And this crowd, they are firmly against Shinjiro Otani. They are booing the shit out of this man.
Yeah, the arm attack didn't stop. He kind of, I'm just watching this match and I'm in awe that, he's really, there's not much like him going today. It kind of reminds me of the match that Kushida and Liger had a few years back. Same type of match in terms of the arm. But yeah, this one has definitely a lot more crowd heat because of, how Otani has presented himself the whole match.
Otani hits another springboard dropkick, but this time it's to Liger's outstretched arm. Really, just great psychology here. Straight back to an armbar, rope break, but Otani doesn't break. And again, the crowd just booing him like so loudly in this match. It's amazing because despite his antics or the antics of like Kanemoto and Takaiwa in a lot of their matches, the crowd loves these guys because they're so good at being wrestlers, they're such great performers that like you can't help but cheer them. But like Otani is doing everything he can to make sure like Liger is the hero in this match.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why, right? We'll talk about that
Yes.
at the conclusion of the match. But yeah, it's a great psychology throughout and a great performance by Otani. But it's not just a one-sided thing. Obviously, we're here to talk about Liger, and I think Liger played the perfect foil to Otani here. A lot of times you get that kind of more aggression, almost like tweener type thing from Liger, but this was like straight babyface the whole time from Liger, other than maybe the face washing in the corner. But I think the crowd reacted to that how he wanted them to too.
We're in the midst of the crescendo of the match. There's a shote, but only a 2 count. Crowd pops at the kick out of this. The running Liger bomb. 1, 2, kick out. Top rope fisherman buster. Holy shit. 1, 2, kick out. So, Liger cannot put away Otani. Otani escapes a top rope brainbuster by, I think he's shifting his body in midair and landing on top of Liger. I think this is the match, this is the spot you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so, in my opinion, based on how this happened, I think Otani was supposed to take the brainbuster and something funky happened. They weaved it back into the match, and they eventually got there. But yeah, this was a little scary, right? He lands right on top of Liger, but I think he gets he basically lands on his back and not his head, so it was okay. But yeah, so at this point of the match, some other type of duality was evident to me. Is that you think about Otani with the swan dive attacks, and at the same time, Liger's like, okay, well, if he's going to up his game on the swan dive attacks, I'm going to up my game on the avalanche style, the top rope attacks, right? So he did this is the first one, right? The brainbuster, or had he done a Frankensteiner earlier?
He did the Frankensteiner. He did the Fisherman Buster. The
Fisherman Buster, right? Now he goes for the brainbuster too. So I kind of think there's a couple mirror things happening in this match. One of them is the soul butts against the palm strikes, and then the swan dive attacks against the avalanche style attacks. And this is the point where that clicked to me. And it was, when you think about that, Liger's one of those guys that has multiple top rope attacks, whether it's the Fisherman Buster, the Frankensteiner, the Brain Buster, which is not very common.
It's amazing, the proclivity of which he uses these moves. And as far as I know, he's never really injured anyone. No one's ever been seriously injured in any of his matches.
And that Fisherman Buster was, I think, the best I've ever seen him do. The one you just talked about. The Brain Buster this one was funky, but the Fisherman Buster was nasty.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. From here, Otani recovers. He hits a springboard dropkick, but this time to the back of Liger's head. Probably, I like that target more than the face, because usually his opponents just go flying straight across the ring if they get hit with this particular springboard, JoJo.
And it gives him a good chance to do his I'm gonna win type pose, and
He puts both of his arms straight up in the air, and he's shaking them. Victory is mine. It's imminent. It's coming. From here, Otani does the motion of the championship belt around his waist. He's motioning, I'm keeping that belt, Liger. You're not getting it from me.
Yeah, I mean, I have a huge grin on my face right now just thinking about how good this match is. It's awesome.
Liger hits Otani with slaps to the face. He goes for the shote, but Otani ducks and hits the dragon suplex on Liger here. Otani sells tweaking his knee by pulling off his knee pad. He then hits a gorgeous springboard spinning heel kick for a big 2 count. Now there's a huge Liger call from the fans. They are well into this match, and they really want Liger to win the belt. There's a series of strikes that are dodged by both men, and then Liger hits a shote to the back of Otani's head. And then, why don't you finish? What happens next after that, JoJo?
So then they come back around, and finally gets to the avalanche style brainbuster. Is that the finish?
So I have avalanche brainbuster that murders Otani. 1, 2, 3, and the crowd goes crazy. I'm going crazy. I assume you're going crazy as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going so crazy I can't even really remember what happens. But if you've talked to me enough times to know that my memory is pretty bad. But yeah, he eventually gets to the top rope brainbuster, and it doesn't seem like they're trying to make up for that spot. Like the time in between the first one and the second one is awesome, right? So a lot of times like there'll be a botch, and then like the two guys will go right back to that same move. This is not that at all. The time in between the two attempts for this move were amazing. And I mean, this match was all about Liger being too much for Otani, and Otani having to do, maybe bend the rules a little bit, go all out to try to, take the palm strike away from Liger. Then, these big moves, the Liger bomb, that dragon suplex is beautiful. Great match.
Oh, yeah, I think one of the things that I really liked in this closing stretch was the shote to the back of the head, because I think that, you think about it, really would do a lot more damage than one to the face. And it really sets up the brain buster, especially from the top rope, really, really well. And I think it makes it more effective. Liger wins the championship. He's presented with the certificate and the trophy and the title belt from Seiji Sakaguchi, who's like, I don't know, is he the vice president or the president of the company? Like, Inoki's pretty much gone, except as like a kind of like figurehead, isn't he?
Yeah, and Sakaguchi is basically a figurehead too, I think. But he's always kind of been like the second guy, either in charge or even like in terms of like being pushed in the early days. He's definitely around.
So he's like, if you watch old New Japan matches from the 90s, the large man, the large older Japanese man who towers over a lot of the other wrestlers is Seiji Sakaguchi. He's a legend in that company from its beginning. But this is another great match. It's definitely, up there with any of his like high-end matches. Liger's high-end matches, of course. This is the third match of the Otani series that we've talked about on Thunderstruck. And I'm going to say, for my money, I like the 98 match the most of all of the three ones that I've covered for this series. But this is awesome. Like, you can't go wrong with any match involving Liger or Otani on opposite sides of the ring, JoJo.
Yeah, I mean, I picked this one for a reason, right? This one's my favorite one. But yeah, they're all good. You should watch all of them. This one's interesting because, so originally New Japan just had, I guess it was like a 1 hour time slot. So a lot of matches would get clipped unless they were on commercial tapes. You could never really see the full match. So this one was one of those matches that wasn't really in circulation in its full form. And then not that long ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, TV Asahi did like a special series for Liger, and they were playing full matches. So this match was only available in its entirety, for a year or two, maybe 3 years tops. So I think this is one that not that many people have seen in its entirety, and I think maybe its reputation suffers a little bit from that. But for me, this is, one of the best matches that either of these guys has ever had.
Oh, yeah, and I think if you watch any of their matches, and a lot of Liger's matches from this era, it's like they hold up incredibly well. They have a very, timeless quality to them, because I think the work is so tight. The psychology is off the charts. The emotions are real from both guys, but especially from Shinjiro Otani, and everything makes sense. Like you said, they might have botched that one brainbuster earlier in the match up, but they don't just go right back to it. They roll through the match, doing other spots, and then they get to a natural point where they can do the brainbuster, and this time it's the finish. So I think, you can't really find that many holes in this match, JoJo.
Yeah, no, to me it's a 5-star match. It's a near perfect match.
Yes. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the review. And any final thoughts on Jushin Thunder Liger before we wrap it up here, JoJo?
No, I mean, he's a legend. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and like I said when we started the show, I'm happy for him that he gets to retire on his own terms, but selfishly, I'd like to see him keep wrestling for several more years, but obviously I don't get to decide that, so congratulations, Liger.
Yeah, I think he'll enjoy getting fat and eating nabe at the dojo with the new trainees, as he is wont to do. I'm very happy for him, and I'm excited. As of this recording, it's not January 4th yet, but I'm going to be at the January 4th Wrestle Kingdom, January 5th Wrestle Kingdom. I'm also going to New Year's Dash, which will have Liger's retirement ceremony. I'm very excited to be attending all three events. Jojo, you and I will be meeting up in the month of January with like a lot of other people flying in from Toronto and from the UK and from the United States. We're going to be seeing some shows together and enjoying a lot of food together. I think that's one of our themes, is that we like to eat together, and we're going to share some of the culinary delights of Tokyo to people like John and Wei and Martin Bushby and so many other people that are going to be dropping into Tokyo in the coming month.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the wrestling and looking forward to the food.
Yeah. And do you have any plugs you would like to talk about?
No plugs.
No plugs? Not your Twitter, nothing like that?
No. Go Marlins.
You're a big baseball fan, that's true. Okay. Follow me at WHPark9 on Twitter. Please enjoy the rest of the series. We're kind of on the tail end of the series. I'm not going to say how many episodes we have left, but we're getting there. Thanks to everyone for listening to the series as a whole and for a lot of the positive feedback I've been getting. It's very appreciated. And on behalf of JoJo, until the next episode, I will say goodbye.